Cancel culture is an incredible force right now, and frankly, I don't know how to feel about it. On the one hand, Gamergate was technically cancel culture. A significant part of it was, yes, a consumer uprising against a group of people that they viewed to be corrupt within an industry. And parts of Gamergate definitely involved targeting people's advertisers, email campaigns, public outrage, attempts to get people fired. But what makes that any different from any normal canceling today, where a celebrity says the wrong thing, where an old tweet is dug up, where somebody's old blackface photos reemerge? They're both instances of public outcry. They both involve attempts to get people's livelihoods shut down. But aside from the fact that people who were pro-Gamergate back in the day believe that they were right, what's the difference? Because I don't think it can be simply belief that you were correct. When the left cancels people for comments that they view to be racist, or for publicly supporting Donald Trump or whatever, those people certainly think that they're right. And yet, there's an obvious problem there. So what makes one canceling just and another one unjust? It can't simply be belief that you're correct. Because everyone at some point believes that they're correct, even when they're not. And yeah, me most of all. When Karlin Borisenko or Academic Agent got cancelled, specifically for their opposition to the radical left, losing jobs in the process, clearly the left thought it was justifiable. And clearly most reasonable people on the center, let alone people on the right, understand that it was not. But how is that any different from the recent cancel Netflix hashtag going around right now over cuties? Yes, there's obviously differences in content, but we're not talking about the content right now. We're talking about the behaviors of the people doing the canceling. You have leftists coming to the defense of Netflix, decrying cancel culture, while those same leftists actively engage in it against other targets. And at the same time, you've got centrists and rightoids both gleefully laughing about how they finally have justification to cancel somebody, as if they haven't been decrying cancel culture all along. Unfortunately, for those who habitually engage in cancel culture, who actually think that it's good, they purposefully seem to do it one-sidedly. They understand that they are specifically targeting a certain group, generally those people who oppose them politically, and they're completely okay with this. Talcum X, known for canceling nearly everyone under the sun, refused to cancel Nick Cannon. Regardless of whether or not you actually like Nick Cannon, if the things Nick Cannon said were said by a white man about the white race, Sean King would be all over social media talking about it. But listen to him here. He's 39 years old. That means he's been on this earth for over 14,200 days. I refuse to cancel this man's 14,000 days because of something he said in 90 seconds. Now, when people are taken out of context, that's actually a reasonable position to hold, but the problem is that this staying of the hand is only given to people who have the right politics. Destiny is getting fucked by the establishment right now too. I know on some level it's just internet drama, but he's losing some serious sources of income, all because he doesn't like rioters burning down property and he believes that they should be stopped. Of course, the left no longer considers him a leftist, but he always was, and he still kinda is. I could keep bringing up examples, but I think you get the point. If I were to do a video of every single example of people getting cancelled, especially over something as innocuous as an old tweet or a little bit of speech or something taken out of context, we would be here all day. But the point is that this is becoming a serious problem, and everyone recognizes it. On July 7th of 2020, Harper's Magazine published a letter on justice and open debate. And although I don't agree with everything in this letter, I think it's important to talk about it. The forces of illiberalism are gaining strength throughout the world and have a powerful ally in Donald Trump, who represents a real threat to democracy. But resistance must not be allowed to harden into its own brand of dogma or coercion, which right-wing demagogues are already exploiting. The democratic inclusion we want can be achieved only if we speak out against the intolerant climate that has set in on all sides. I personally don't agree that Donald Trump's actually a threat to democracy. As I've always said, I am neutral on Trump. He's done some things that I like, he's done some things that I don't like. If I were an American, I'd probably be voting for him this year, but that's just me. The rest of this, yes, absolutely. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you've heard this story before. But I can remember when the left used to be all about freedom of speech, and it was the right wing that would reject open debate because it was offensive to Christian sensibilities. But there's been a political paradigm shift. The right wing is now taking up the cause of free speech more than the left, and even academics are recognizing that leftism is devolving into its own brand of dogma and coercion. This letter was signed by a whole bunch of public intellectuals, but I think what's most noteworthy is that it was signed by both Noam Chomsky, the most celebrated leftist thinker of the current era, alongside Jonathan Haidt, a very well-known conservative. Everybody is recognizing what public debate is devolving into. But of course, because cancel culture is the weapon of the left right now, there are at least some of those on the left who have to deny that it's anything bad. A cacophony of new voices are just making it harder for famous and powerful people to blather on about all sorts of things without interruption. This is technically true. Again, think back to Gamergate and the consumer boycott, where you had individuals with more power within an industry than your common person, all being yelled at by a whole bunch of commoners. And yes, the framing of the classism in this little passage here definitely make me think that this is coming at it from the left. Here's Huffington Post's take, called "Don't Fall for the Cancel Culture Scam." Every statement of fact in the Harper letter is either wildly exaggerated or plainly untrue. More broadly, the controversy over cancel culture is straightforward a moral panic. While there are indeed real cases of ordinary Americans plucked from obscurity and harassed into unemployment, remember CNN threatening to dox Han asshole Solo over making a fucking gif and posting it on Reddit? This rare, isolated phenomenon is being blown up far beyond its importance. The panic over cancel culture is, at its core, a reactionary backlash. Conservative elites, threatened by changing social norms and an accelerating generational handover, are attempting to amplify their feelings of aggrievement into a national crisis. This ain't it, Chief. I know that the left loves that term, reactionary, but you can't simply label people rejecting the bad things that you do over on the left as reactionary. That ain't how it works. Sometimes the left is actually evil. Sometimes the right's idea for a given situation is actually better than the left's. This is not simply populist criticism against the elites. And it's not just something like Karens asking to speak to a manager. Calling someone's employer isn't just criticism. Calling their school isn't just criticism. Getting their websites taken down isn't just criticism. Contacting their banks, contacting their payment processors, it's not just criticism. Gathering outside their houses, attacking them in the streets, firing on them with weapons. This isn't just criticism anymore. And you know what? I completely understand the left's reply to this. If you say something stupid, or better yet, morally heinous, you should expect some kind of a community backlash from that. And fair enough. You can't be a fascist in public and not expect people to call you an idiot. And frankly, same goes for socialists. In other words, nobody is a victim because they've been told that something they said was inappropriate. But simultaneously, this is not a reason to tolerate the silencing of every difference of opinion. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences of that speech. But there's also great value in tolerating other people's point of view, mainly because not a single one of us truly knows the way forward. And anybody who tells you that they do, whether it's for religious reasons or political reasons or whatever, anybody who comes to you and says the way is X, progress is X, they're lying to you. They're selling you something, because they are no greater or lesser than you are. And you may be knowledgeable in one thing, but in return you are likely woefully ignorant in a dozen other things. Even worse, you are lying to yourself about something important in your life right now. We all are. I don't know anything. I'm not the arbiter of truth or justice or progress. Who am I to judge anybody else? And frankly, every single time that I've fallen into the trap of judging somebody else, it's always backfired in my face. In fact, as a general rule, if a personality or a YouTuber or a debater or something that you follow is able to, off the cuff, pull out the correct answer to any topic they're asked all the time, instantly, you know what? They're probably bullshitting you. They're probably bullshitting themselves. They probably don't actually know anything. Or more likely, they're just operating on faith. Faith in a political ideology that encompasses all possible human experience, and therefore, they don't need facts, they only need to believe in it. But that's not real progress. The only way that we all grow and learn is when we listen to those people that the radicals would excommunicate. Not because we endorse their views, not even because we believe they're correct about anything that they have to say, but because true diversity is, in fact, diversity of thought. This is why radical leftists often say things like diversity of thought is just whiteness, or merit is whiteness, or whatever else. because uniformity of thought marches in lockstep with anti-liberty ideologies. Of course, they want uniformity of thought. They'll never say it like that, but when they're saying, this is bigoted, that is offensive, that's what they mean. But no word is inherently offensive. There is always a context in which it becomes acceptable, funny, or even wise. But cancel culture specifically denies both the nuance and the impreciseness of human communication. In a situation like Count Dankula's has already shown us the potential devastation in our future if we allow the natural end result of cancel culture, hate speech laws, to continue to creep into our legal systems. The blatant disregard of context in Dankula's case, yes, the judge said context doesn't matter, is the core of cancel culture. Understanding the context by which an idea is communicated is essential to understanding its meaning. And if you don't understand the meaning of an idea, how can you judge its moral value? Tone of voice, body language, even the identity of the person who's speaking, all of these take a regular piece of text and radically transform it. Frankly, I think this is why text-only mediums are so difficult to communicate with. And since we're on that subject, I actually think social media is turning an entire generation of people into sociopaths. Or to be more precise, it exacerbates pre-existing mental problems if it's used too often. It's certainly done that to me. I know that I've said things I entirely regret due to this effect. Even things that I still think may be correct. I know that I've made mistakes in how I say them. But social media also makes cancel culture very easy to engage in. With trends, hashtags, and the forced shortening of complex thoughts into a tiny 240-character tweet or a 15-second video clip. Cancel culture existed before. That was basically what Al Sharpton and the other race grifters were doing back in the 90s. But the slower speed of legacy media meant that the practice was never actually as lucrative as it is right now. Social media is cancel culture's perfect storm. It transforms people into the worst versions of themselves, that they may more easily make mistakes and in turn be more judgmental about other people's mistakes, while simultaneously handing them all of the tools they need to enact that flawed version of justice. And yes, everybody who engages in cancel culture is seeking justice. But their idea of justice is fundamentally flawed. Justice requires a reasonable, fair interpretation of people's words and actions, an impartial form where all points of view are considered. And yes, I know this ideal standard is rarely actually reached, but in our striving toward it, we've made great progress. And none of that progress is found within the justice of the mob. One of the reasons we probably shouldn't actually be surrendering to the justice of the mob, in fact. The problem with the justice of the mob isn't that it's emotional or finicky, or sometimes even violent, though it is all of those things, and those are their own problems. It's that it fundamentally denies the idea of justice itself. It's built on the foundation of postmodernist critical theory, of which the recently lampooned critical race theory is a part, and it denies the truth of a universally shared reality. In other words, while the postmodernists understand that we are limited, mortal, fallible creatures and our points of view are subjective, which is correct, they therefore believe that objectivity itself doesn't exist, which is incorrect. My senses may be fallible. I may not be omnipotent. When I touch the glass of water on my desk, my brain isn't truly connecting to that glass of water. Instead, the nerve endings in my fingers trick my brain into thinking so. Yes, that's all true. But even my own subjectivity must be tapping into something objective. There must be some kind of a reality that we're all engaging with, because most reasonable people come to a pretty broad consensus of its existence. But postmodernists don't believe in objective reality. Everything is subjective to them. And therefore, the only reason one thing is chosen over another is due to power. Words don't have any meanings beyond what the most powerful group can enforce onto everyone else. Concepts are offensive if the most powerful lobby can make it so. When the shared objective reality is gone, the common ground that we all share as humans, all human interaction becomes a power game. No, I'm not off topic. This is what cancel culture is. It's power politics. When a person is canceled, it's not done because they did something that's actually bad. When they do, that just makes it easier. They're canceled because those people who truly believe that all human interaction is simply a power dynamic, where individuals represent their collectives that they appear to be a part of, where there is no compromise, no peace, no changing of the topic. All space must be filled. All concepts must be boiled down. Everything must be black or white. You're either with us or against us. In canceling somebody, those people are making a power move. That's all. Trudeau didn't have his career destroyed by his blackface photos when others have, because those who play the power game have deemed it so. Black Lives Matter will not be cancelled despite the anti-Semitic comments of major people involved within it, or despite their most recent blockadings of hospitals simply because that hospital is treating a wounded police officer. Netflix is defended by those who routinely engage in cancel culture, because the politics are right. Sometimes a person's bigotry is considered to be offensive. Other times that bigotry is acceptable. It's all based on the person who's actually spouting it. Individuals are presumed innocent or guilty based on their identity, their political affiliation, or their class, but it's never anything based on truth. Cancel culture runs on a quasi-religious sense of moral purity, probably where the idea of the purity spiral comes from, in fact. However, unlike most religions, cancel culture doesn't seem to have a pathway to redemption. There's no way for you to cleanse your sins, to absolve yourself of your blasphemy. You can only hope that the mob forgets about you and leaves you in peace. I'm not laying this at the feet of anyone specifically. Although the left is known for wielding this power disproportionately right now, the right wing has also done it in the past when it served their purposes. Neocons have done it, neolibs have done it, fascists and socialists have done it. Where the leftists say problematic or reactionary, the rightists say blasphemous or degenerate. It's all the same thing. The only group that has consistently not done this are the individualists, the libertarians, the classical liberals. And this is why that I believe that they, more than the collectivism of the socialists and the fascists, are our best shot at achieving a better future. I've engaged in cancel culture too. I don't like it. It's an ugly part of myself that I've tried to get rid of, with some success, though I'm not there yet. But there are dog piles that I've jumped on that I genuinely regret jumping on. Situations like pro-Jareds, or Shoeonheads, or Kraut-ures. I'm not saying that I don't have serious criticisms of these people. I still do. Although regarding some things I was right about these people, I was also quite wrong about others. I regret not keeping my head on straight when making public comments about them. I regret acting in bad faith, even if I felt like I had good reasons for doing so at the time. And as far as the latter two are concerned, I regret not talking about the situation privately with both of them before airing my grievances publicly. I hope one day I get to, because regardless of my actual legitimate criticisms of these people, I do think that all three of them are good people who are generally acting in good faith, and none of them deserve the shit that they got. So, although I know that I'm not a big player in any scene, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. But that is cancel culture, isn't it? You feel righteous when you're engaging with it. You feel like it's justified. You feel like you're doing something good, like you're creating something, but all you're doing is destroying. I think that cancel culture being played out in the real world is something like what we're seeing with the riots happening right now. Even if there's a real grievance there, and sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't, but even if there is, the act of destruction is liberating, it's exhilarating, and it feels more like building a better world than actually building the better world. It fools you into thinking that you're doing something good, even if you're not. And I do think the rise of cancel culture is actually bleeding over into the real world through the protests. I really do. There have been instances where things were a lot more clear-cut, where it was significantly more obvious that the police were at fault. Like Eric Garner in, I think, what was it, 2014 or something? And we did not have the widespread looting, the indiscriminate street violence, the burning down of buildings, the killing of people in the streets. We didn't have that then. I'm not saying that what happened to Eric Garner was good, obviously, but what I am saying is, I think social media is an accelerant. It amplifies the worst tendencies of all of us. To the radicals of any political persuasion, this is a godsend to them. They just see opportunities to make more radicals, and they are doing so. Every single day they're doing so. Left, right, doesn't matter. But to reasonable people who actually value good faith, or being truthful, or giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, or hell, their own mental stability, social media is ruining everything, man. Maybe it sounds hyperbolic, but I really think it is. I think cancel culture is a symptom of the attitudes of an entire people who have been basically living online for the past decade, where everything that you are pro is automatically seen by you in the best possible light, and everything that you are anti is automatically seen by you in the worst possible light, simply because of power, where all interaction is a game of trying to catch somebody else in the act, where all attempts to care about your fellow humans are ridiculed, because maybe you're too sensitive, maybe you're a fucking loser, who knows. The actual reason doesn't matter. As long as you can, get a wedge in, have an angle, then it's fine. That is what people have turned into. And I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of how it makes me think about things. I'm tired of how it makes everyone else react to things. And the worst part about it is that if you stop playing the game, then you are at a fundamental disadvantage against those who still play it. in a good faith conversation with somebody who truly believes their points that you oppose is much better than simply talking to a fucking liar. In any case, that's my rant on cancel culture. Everyone out there, take care of yourselves. To anyone who I might have wronged in the past, I never actually meant to. I'm sorry. And as always, I will see you guys next time. I love you.